Ready Check Radio. Hello, Internet, and welcome once again to the Relic Grind, Ready Check Radio's Final Fantasy XIV Square Enix podcast. It's Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. That means we're live, twitch.tv/Ready Check Radio. Chat joining us, ready to chime in on their opinions on everything we have to talk about today. If you're joining us via YouTube or on Audible, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon Music, any of those distribution outlets, take a moment, head on over to Ready Check Radio in the upper .com. In the upper right-hand corner, I've got all the socials for you. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, all of that stuff. Go give it a like, go give it a follow, subscribe, whatever it is on those different social media platforms. Feed the algorithm, help us out. If you like what we do here, best thing you could do, tell a friend. Tell a friend. Have them show up live. Joining me today to go over Final Fantasy XIV news, Forspoken news, and other news, including Billboards. Chat, definitely already. There's people here just for Billboards today, apparently. Mr. Chris Montoya, a.k.a. Tarkoth. What's up, sir?
Greetings, programs. Man, what a week. Like, delays.
I know, right?
Release dates, advertisement opportunities. Speaking of advertisement opportunities, I heard the Relic Grind is advertising now. Did you see that?
I have not. I didn't know that it had gone up.
Yeah, it's up. I mean,
I immediately...
In the best locations, too. Minnesota and Idaho. A lot of traffic on these.
Yeah. I mean, it's Thursdays, 4 p.m. PDT, 7 p.m. Eastern. Tark, I didn't know we had finished it yet.
Big props to Sir Onion to help me throw that together.
Yeah. I mean, that's... you got to do what you got to do. We're going to be at a couple of cons this year with Ready Check Radio banners. We haven't told anybody that.
Ooh.
And visiting people and doing a show live. We don't have dates and stuff yet, but more coming. So, yeah, absolutely.
Keep growing. Let hosts know so they can get tickets to.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Also on the line, Kronos not here today, remember. He will not be joining us. And no show next week. Everybody has off next week because I'll be headed out bright and early Friday morning for a weekend at Ocean City with the family. So Thursday night, going to be a little preoccupied. So no show next week. We will, of course, be back the following Thursday, filling in for Kronos, the one, the only Mr. Michael Poveromo. It's MrHappy. What's up, Big Daddy?
I didn't know this was a Billboard meme sharing center.
Do you have one? Go for it. Yeah.
I don't know how to. I don't know how do I do that. How'd you change your camera to the picture? Did you just share your screen?
You streamed it. And I have virtual camera.
So I don't have a virtual camera.
You'd have to accept
Discord. Yeah.
You'd have to accept I'd have to either drop it in the Discord so you could share it, or
yeah. Well, you go. Well, actually, drop it in the show notes. Right.
I'll drop it in the show notes, and at the end, we'll take a look.
Okay. Yeah. I'll prep it, and we'll take a look at your billboard at the end.
Yeah, mine's maybe a little less advertising and more just placing an image, but
LOL.
LOL.
I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, go ahead and throw the link in there or the file, the picture itself, whatever, and I'll get it prepped up. But yeah, I thought, gents, we finished the show last week. It was the day before the live letter. We talked about 618 and the data center stuff coming the following week and the 24-hour maintenance. Basically, the show notes for this week were written last week when we were done, right? It was... Yeah. Haps, I know you're putting together shows yourself when you do the show notes for things, because I know you don't always do them. Sometimes it's a little spur of the moment, and sometimes Sly actually will put them together. But those are the shows that you're like, yeah, we don't need show notes for it. We're gonna pull up somebody's site that has a nice recap of the live letter, and we're just gonna run it. We're just gonna run it. As somebody that puts those together, you love those weeks because you're like, man, that's an hour show. I don't got to do shit.
An hour.
Well, yeah. State of the Realm sometimes goes a little longer. But those
It took me a moment to put together graphics and stuff for my show last week, but they're easy.
You like it. You're like, okay, let me grab some B-roll footage for a couple of different things, a screenshot here, and then you're done. You're done. And then just as the week went by, more and more and more and more, and I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna actually have to put together show notes that have.
After this, I have to get to work on the stuff they did today.
Yeah. I mean, go for it. You want to start there? Go for it.
Start there. I mean, do you know how many places we have to go today? You should direct. You got to direct the ship. No, you got to direct the ship, or we're gonna get lost because there's too many things. There's way too many things that have happened in the last week. Well,
let's start with 618. Right, it was tiny. As far as there, no real content, but it was the big one as far as data center travel went. Obviously, tons of people looking forward to that, and it went ahead and shit the bed. And I don't know if anybody expected anything else, right?
It's the Amber Heard patch?
Oh, jeez.
Hearsay?
Hearsay?
Objection. You asked the question. Well, yeah. Anyway, so yeah, and ironically, like I expected when, inevitably it didn't work out on the first 24 hours. I expected it to be a rough week full of Yoshi P apologies and everything. And then quickly just things went off the rails, and all of a sudden nobody was talking about 24 hours of absolutely abysmal data center travel, the service being shut down eventually, and then 24 hours later spinning it back up kind of a world at a time, and introducing little delays during primetime hours and things like that for certain data centers. Now, I personally, there are a couple, friends I'm going to go visit now and then, but this is not something I needed to be there and was like disappointed by it not working. Haps, were you like day one making the star-studded MrHappy tour of servers or anything, or was this kind of, okay, it's down, I'll see you tomorrow?
Yeah, I knew there was no hope it was going to work in the first place. I'm like, I'm logging in and playing. There's no chance I risk using this service the day it releases. I barely want to log into the game on days the patches release in fear of it not being able to boot up correctly. You think I'm going to use this? No. At some point, sure, but day of, no. So I'll have a reason to visit when I do.
What about you, Tark?
Let's just say my ultimate group had a note. No one is to use data center travel because we want to make sure that you're available on Wednesday. So I was not permitted. Some friends tried to come over to play with me on Tuesday. They got trapped and couldn't get back. And they're like, I can't even access my retainers. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of restrictive in that way, but we could play together. So I didn't go anywhere. Some people did and ended up hanging out with me for a little bit. But yeah, it's a cluster F.
It does seem to be, for the most part, running now. Again, there are restrictions on it sometimes as far as timing and things like that, but all in all, it does seem to be up and running and off to a little bit of a rocky start, but quick recovery. Nothing like some other rocky starts we've seen in 8+ years of covering this game and 10+ years of covering it from 1.0 forward. Then, of course, the live letter, right? Our first foray into 6.2. Finally, big feature. We made predictions last show on would it even be mentioned, since this was kind of like part 1 of the live letter, and they're going to do the old part 2 later. I was right, Tark. Island Sanctuary did get quite a bit, so I think even though it may not be in the order it happened, let's start there, because that's really like the new, right? Kind of like Crystalline Conflict was in 6.1. This is the new that's going to be coming in the 6.2 series, with the exception of some dungeony stuff we'll talk about in a minute. You would think that Island Sanctuary is like right up my alley, particularly with the interacting with your minions and stuff like that. And me and my minions, I love. I'm not gonna do a lot of Island Sanctuary.
I would have never thought you would be into Island Sanctuary.
I wouldn't peg you for an Island Sanctuary.
Really? Just because of the interaction with minions, I could see somebody going.
I think those are minimal at best.
Yeah. You're just collecting them. They're like
I am gonna go to see them run around.
Yeah,
I am gonna go.
Yeah. That novelty will wear off.
Did anything interest you on this one, Tark?
Vaguely interested. I like the fact that everything is separate, except for like the end special currency for Island Sanctuary, inventory, tools, everything that you can glamour up buildings and such. I like that everything is separate as far as inventory purposes, which now also then leads me to think, if we have all this server space for everyone to get their own island and all their own tools and all this stuff that's separate from the game, can we please get a better glamour transbox system, please? Like make that happen. More inventory. Like there's no excuses. Like just give it to us.
Haps, you gonna be on the island with your minions?
I'm gonna be just on the island doing island stuff. That's whatever island stuff is. I mean, they detail it, but I'm gonna be an island boy. that was
absolutely
in my head
awful. Wow. That was absolutely awful.
It was. That's why it was in my head. So, I'm gonna mess around. I'm an every content kind of person, So I dabble in everything.
Like they were trying to give a scale for size, right?
Yeah. It just looks like a censored phallus.
It definitely does. Like
I think it's a dolphin, to be fair, but
I think it is too. Yeah, but the way they tried to pick
upside down.
No, I think it's like a dolphin or something jumping out of the water type deal, and they give you the size of a Rogadin, like on the beach.
I actually tried to wipe my monitor when I was like, "What the heck is that on my monitor?"
That's a damn Rogadin. I can't get that Rogadin.
Now I gotta get it out even more.
So this is more. They did keep like reiterating this is not like housing. This is not like housing. This is not going to be like housing. And I kind of don't believe them. Because it is instanced content, so I just feel like we're gonna run into some problems here if we haven't substantially changed architecture, which we know they haven't in certain ways yet. They're going to be, but they haven't yet. So I gotta say I am a little concerned / curious about how well this works being instanced to all of us.
Yeah, they would have fixed housing, give more wards and let people have houses and then do islands, but okay.
Well, no, they reallocated the wards already, Tark.
Oh, that's going to fix everything,
I mean, the people who own things still own things, but they've reallocated the wards.
Yes, that's going to help immediately. Yep. No. I still can't get a medium house.
Haps,
but you're going to have a large island.
Mammoth Australia-sized island, yes.
You can have a mammoth dong-shaped island.
I almost wonder. They haven't said every single. I don't think they've said every single island is instanced to every.
No, not every
person.
island. No,
meaning like not every single person has their own instance. I wonder if somehow phases similar to the way that. I don't know. I guess like the new tribal quests would work or some other content so that they can pile a bunch of people technically into one server, but you're all phased between them. I think I'm almost certain they have to have a technical workaround for what we think it is versus how it's programmed on the back end.
Well, I would also think that because if they are doing their own private islands, which I agree with you. I don't think that they're doing it like that. Then they do obviously have the question of why didn't we just do housing, please? Like housing is the immediate problem. If we're able to do islands now, why didn't we just do housing? So I tend to agree with you that this is going to be like divvied up over multiple players, instancey, the way they're going to combine this. Hey, I'm all for although this is one of those things like PvP for me, right? Although I'm not probably going to do a ton here, I'll tinker with it here and there. At best, I am all for this type of content. Like, there is definitely an audience that likes to do their Stardew Valley harvesting kind of stuff in games, and now they can do it in Final Fantasy if they want to. Then we got another Square Enix game, Harvestella, coming up. But
yeah. Oh my God, Harvestella.
They announced Harvestella.
God of War.
Yeah.
They announced Harvestella, and then they gave us the information on Island Sanctuary. Now I'm like, well, what do I want to invest my time into? The Final Fantasy XIV version or the game that's outside of that? I don't know.
Yeah, the game that's outside of it, you'll be buying God of War instead.
Yeah.
So just go ahead and do Island Sanctuary.
Well, I got to get through all the other God of Wars first, so.
Wait, what?
No, you don't. Just play 4.
Wait, have you never played a God of War game?
No, I've played them. I've never beaten one.
Oh, you've never beaten a single one of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, just play the most recent one. You're fine. Boy simulator. Boy. By the way, name of the patch, Buried Memory. Late August. No surprises there if you've mapped things out with this team, as long as this panel's mapped things out. New scenario quests. New Tataru's Grand Adventure or Grand Endeavor. My bad. Because the last Grand Endeavor was so grand. Hit teleport 3 times, and there we go. We're done. We're done. We are getting more Hildebrand, but I think we should stop there.
Big butt.
Yeah, big butt, because there are a lot of people angry that the upcoming relics will interface with having to do Hildebrand. Having to do Hildebrand. Now, okay, so obviously this is no big deal for everybody on here, right? Everybody's up to date now with Hildebrand.
I am now.
Well, you are now. You had to catch up. Happy and I are always up to date with Hildebrand. Happy's the one that converted me on liking the Gentleman Detective.
This was such a great one, too.
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. But should it be part of Relics? Like, there's that argument of the Relics have always intersected with certain bits of content at certain times. Obviously, things like Bozja and Eureka were, instrumental in Relics and things like that. But, maybe you view that a little differently. That's a side grind. It doesn't have anything to do with anything besides a little bit of content while doing your Relic and a little bit of story while doing your Relic. Here is a piece of side content that has previously existed that to do the current stuff does require you go back and start doing all of the older Hildebrand stuff just to get ready. And obviously you have plenty of time, gang. Plenty of time. A couple of hours and you will be done. And that's if you read everything and enjoy everything. If you just escape through cutscenes, it will take you far fewer than 2 or 3 hours. But are you okay with it? Does it open a door maybe to the future Relic being tied behind PvP ranking? Or a certain raid clear? Or X, Y, Z? Where do you fall, Haps?
I like when they intertwine some old content into current content. So with the only other Relic that's actually forced you to do something prior is Bozja. You had to do the Return to Evil East raid series. Yeah. I'd argue that while I like Return to Evil East is one of my favorite 24-mans, that was a far bigger ask than doing a few what are essentially side quest cutscenes that, like you said, a patch of Hildebrand is like 5 to 7 minutes if you skip every cutscene.
And something you can do solo.
Yeah, there are 4 trials, but 3 of them can be unsynced really easily by one person, and one of them you probably need a buddy or to hop in the Duty Finder. The Duty Finder queue for the Stormblood one, it can be a little long, so I'd recommend just asking an FC member or something to come and blitz it. So, but I mean, it's such a small ask. And I also think people are concerned that they'll have to do the Relic to continue Hildebrand, which I don't think will be the case.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to be the case.
They'll be parallel. Like, you'll probably need to do Hildebrand in like 6.35 or 6.45 to advance it. but you don't have to do the weapon to advance Hildebrand. So I love this because I'm glad they're bringing the world's best blacksmith and the world's best goldsmith both into the same story.
Would you be okay with it, though, if it was a piece of content you didn't necessarily enjoy?
That's
now,
tough,
obviously, you do
do
all
everything,
content and a lot, you do the streams and all that stuff, so you constantly are doing all content. But take aside, like, the streaming aspect of what you do. Like, when you sit there and play Final Fantasy and the camera is off, you are doing the things, and you're not prepping for a stream or a video, let's put that in there. You are doing the things that you enjoy more than some of the other things in the game that you may do for a video or a stream or something like that. Would you be okay with the Relic intersecting with those things that maybe are 10, 11, 12 on Happy's happy list?
I'd say the only way that'd be the case is if it was content that doesn't match the style of content that we're doing. So example I mean is like if I needed to like be a hardcore crafter to make my combat relic, for example, that would be a mismatch. I wouldn't want to have to be a combat player to do my crafting relic, for example. It just doesn't mix. But this has had trials and encounters out in the world. Through and through, it is still a combat job series at the very least, or a combat side quest series at the very least. So I think that would be the only thing that would be uncomfortable for me. I'd also say that if Hildebrand took longer to get through than it does, then I would be a lot more sympathetic. If you needed to do, I don't know, let's say before you could start your relic back in Heaven's Word, you needed to do all of a realm. It's not a great example. Let's say you want to do your Realm Reborn relic, but you needed to finish all 5 patches after a Realm Reborn came out to start it. That would be excessive. Something of that length would be excessive. But this couple hours done, even if you don't like it, it seems like it's more energy to complain about it than it is to skip all the cutscenes to get through it.
Tark, you okay with it? You probably are, just because you don't mind doing the Hildebrand quests and the short, and it really doesn't matter. I'm talking more about the precedent it sets joining the Relic to content.
So part of the reason why I never did it is
because it was specific content, I should say.
It was so side content that didn't really matter, so I didn't care. But then with this show, and I wanted to get caught up, and I got caught up. So I'm caught up. I'm good to go. But there are people that may not want to do this. They don't find the humor funny at all. Those people are wrong, but there are people that don't appreciate that humor. They can always skip it, but to require it just feels icky. And I feel like we're headed down a path where we're going to start needing to require like all sorts of different content for future content. And then we're going to have webs of, okay, well, you got to get this done to do this part, then to do this part. So I don't like the precedent that it's setting, especially with something that was strictly side content.
But again, even the Relic itself is arguably for 99% of the player base optional. Right, obviously those hardcore progression free companies and things like that, or they're trying to take out ultimates, and we
don't care about that. This weapon's garbage compared to the stuff we use.
It is. But in most cases, even the Relic, we're talking about optional content that is locked to optional content. At the end of the day, we still have not crossed into like required content being gated by side content, Hildebrand type stuff like that. I'm okay with it. Suck it up and fucking hit escape and skip the cutscene. Like, if you don't want to see him pose, don't watch him pose. Like, I don't care. I don't care. Like, I farmed Atma before the fix, son. Like, I don't go do
You're home.
Oh my god. What was the final count? It was like 72 fates before I finally got a drop. Anyway.
And I got in 2, and you were like, son of a...
I was like, I hate this.
I have a funny story going all the way back to that, but it's not relevant.
Go for it. Who cares?
Oh, when they first came out, we didn't know they were random drop rates, right? Like the patch was brand new, patch 2.1.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And I did one fate. So I looked at the name of the Atma and thought, oh, that's the hint for what fate drops it. And then I went to the fate that I thought it was, which I think was in like Western Lenosha, and I got it in one try. So then I was convinced I was right. So I was trying to do that for all of them for a good several hours before I learned that that wasn't the case. So that was, and then my depression kicked up immediately once I realized what the reality was.
Weapon enhancement quests, quest-centric progression, new tribal quest. It is the Omicrons. So no Loporits. No. Yet.
I'm so glad they're doing this Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy restaurant at the end of the universe thing. They never said we were getting Omicron tribal quests, but the fact that they did exactly what I was hoping they would do is great joy for me.
I'm kind of looking forward to it too. Actually, Q over at MMO Bomb with me, she pegged this one too. Like I was like, I hope it's Loporits first. She was like, no, it's gonna be Omicron. It's Omicron. I was like, it's gonna be, but it doesn't have to be right now. Then we get a new trial, but it's a secret.
It's okay. I'm gonna tell you right now.
It's not a secret. We all guessed on last week's show. We all had the same guess. What's yours, Happy?
It's Cagnazzo. Because Scarmiglione is going to be the boss of Troya.
Oh, that doesn't sound good at all. What, Golbez will be the end?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Golbez and our 6.1 spoilers, okay?
Yeah, you're fine. We did our spoiler show already.
And as Daya, as the Shadow Dragon for Golbez.
Yes.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah. Sorry, but you are. As soon as I saw that story, I was like, I know where this is going. I was like, I know who the Bone Dragon is, and damn it, you're boned. You are boned, my friend. This does not end well for you. Then we have our new raids, our Pandemonium, Abyssos, and Savage, trying a little something different this time. Putting Savage out 1 week after patch drop instead of 2. Now, in the live letter they itself, they did say they've had feedback going back all the way for arguments in favor of and not in favor of making Savage just 1 week after the content patch. They're going to try it. They're not saying that they're going to stick with this. They do want to see what the feedback is. Maybe it'll be the standard going forward. Maybe they revert it back to 2 weeks. Happy you have a question, sir.
Point 2 and point 4 were never delayed before. They're adding a week, not taking a week away.
Adding a week. My bad. I explained it. I explained it the wrong direction. My bad.
I'm just making sure.
Yeah. But the words in my head did not match the words coming out of my mouth. So Savage will be released 1 week after patch 6.2. After 6.2. Happy. I'm happy about it. You look like you are in absolute bliss over it.
Yes. Asking for it for 6 years now. I asked for 2 weeks, but one, I perfectly fine. A delay, specifically.
Yeah, a delay. Tark, your group, back and forth a little bit through groups. How's the current group feel about this?
Everyone's excited to get another week of Ultimates, so that's nice. We're still not going to get it done before Savage. I might be doing Ultimate and New Savage. It looks like it might work out. So I might be raiding 6 out of the 7 days a week. But good times.
Oof. All right. In the interest of time, Unreal Trial, Sephiroth, job adjustments, stuff like that. You know, the usual smorgasbord of smaller items. But the one I do think we need to talk about here is the whole variant dungeons and criterion dungeons. So variable difficulty dungeons, they were previously on the things called criterion dungeons. Level 90 content for 1 to 4 players. Now, we already knew that. No role restrictions, job changes permitted. We already knew that, too. Enemy strength determined by party size. We kind of had an idea based on side comments that was going to be the case. What we have kind of been oh, please don't do is, hey, there's 2 people here. Give it 250,000 more hit points and have it scale damage 1.4 times. Make these a little different. Now, they are doing some different things here from what we know so far. There are going to be different branches based on player action as far as the route of progressing through them. So that's kind of neat. But they did also say that, I don't know. It was so, conflicting. The way, the path would be pre-generated, but different sometimes when you did it. I don't know. Then we'll get to another path dungeons in a second. But as far as the variant dungeons, it sounds like exactly what I was kind of hoping it wasn't. Where it just seems like monsters are going to get a little stronger and have a lot more HP, whether there's 1, 2, 3, 4 of you. And, oh, by the way, these ones will have a little bit of side pathing depending on player decisions throughout it, which we saw in dungeons a while ago, way back, but have not. I mean, they've just been straight lines for years now. So I'm in favor of that, but I don't think this was the enhanced dungeon difficulty I really wanted, a la a World of Warcraft Mythic Plus type piece of content without the problems of Mythic Plus. I'm not saying just insert it. I want the dungeons to be so good, but we'll see. Tark, did this hit the mark for you? I know you're a fellow dungeoneer as well.
This particular piece of content, no. What I label it as, this is the story mode of the dungeons that are being released.
Yeah.
So you basically, you're going to keep going through it so you can get the different endings. And then when you got all the different endings, you're pretty much done. There's nothing really, I don't think, of any value coming out of here. One thing that they didn't talk about in any of these new dungeon packages here is any sort of rewards or achievements or anything like that. So we're still in the dark on that. But it's the second set of dungeons that I really care about.
Yeah, so this is where we get another Sildid Subterrane and a Savage version of it. Now, this news did make me happy as well, MrHappy. And you look quite smiley over it.
I'm also smiley over variant dungeons. I hope variant dungeons at least give tomes equal to what expert dungeons give, just as another option.
Sure.
That's just something to add in there. I hope they do.
Yeah. Parties fewer than 4 players will be supplemented via matching in these ones because you do have to have a tank, a healer, and 2 DPS. That does have to be a 4-person group for both the normal and the savage versions of these. Interesting changes here. Defeated enemies don't revive after the party wipes. And in Savage mode, you'll have to preform the 4-player party. There is no matching available. All methods of resurrection are permitted. Enemies will become much stronger if not defeated in a certain time limit. And they do say that the dungeons will be similar to the variant dungeons as far as the way they're structured, but enemy difficulty is entirely different. This sounds more in line with what I was looking for, which was something a little bit different on the pathing, and my normal story dungeons, going and doing variant as the story portion of it, and then optional increased difficulty, a la way back when, Haps, the expert dungeon system, or the hard mode version of, quote, the hard mode version of dungeons. This seems a little more the Criterion dungeons in line with what I wanted. What I'm really glad is that they've separated it out like this, because when they initially plugged Criterion dungeons and kind of teased them, there wasn't this segregation of a couple different modes, right, of the same type of dungeon. And so it was really oh, great. Yeah, we're going to get something with more HP. And that does seem like what we're going to get in the story-ish variant dungeon, but it seems like I'm going to get almost exactly what I wanted here, pending the rewards. Is there a point to doing this more than once that's beneficial to me in more ways than just, okay, I cleared it, I got the achievement, or time trialing myself and my group at that point. The rewards, I think, are going to play pretty heavy into this, but it also suffers from the same thing like your Savage raids, your Ultimate raids do, in that you can't put, almost necessary stuff or in those rewards because not everybody wants to do the harder bits of content. So it's kind of got that balance it's got to strike, right?
I feel like almost anyone who's doing Savage 8-man is looking at this and going, so we can split 8 into 2 groups of 4, right? And we're all good to go.
And we're all good. Let's go.
Yeah. So I don't so what I want out of this is a couple of things. One, they said it's normal and Savage. Realistically, the difficulty by their own admission is closer to extreme and Savage, with the other one being kind of the variant being the normal mode in a sense. So more middle core content to get people into a better end game setting, one that's unique from what we have from the other pieces of content, one continuous dungeon, a whole, what essentially will give us that raid feel that we miss with trials. Essentially all our raids are trials at this point. And on top of that, even before considering the rewards, the methods of resurrection being almost completely prohibited and extreme, they give you like a res action that you can use on people for anyone, and being completely turned off in Savage. I think we've become far too reliant on resurrections in raids as a whole. And so I'm glad to see that them kind of easing this idea into a smaller group of people. So everything about this screams World Prog to me.
Yeah.
Just gotta see the rewards.
The rewards play a big part in this for me because I want this to be repeatable. Like I want I draw the comparison to WoW's Mythic Plus. No, I don't want that system just inserted into Final Fantasy. That's not what I'm advocating for. But there are reasons besides just, hey, can I take on more of a challenge with my buddies to do Mythic Plus, in that it does influence in that system gear. It might be the same gear, but it gets an extra plus, an extra plus, an extra plus, an extra plus. There's a reason for me to want to run those, and prep for a hard mode or a heroic or a mythic raid. And while the structure is very different in Final Fantasy to the point that you couldn't just insert that type of system without a massive overhaul of the way Final Fantasy's gear progression works, which I think is long overdue anyway, but that's a different topic. I do need a compelling reason to want to do this over and over, because I'll tell you what, if I didn't need to get Tombstone capped for the first couple of weeks of a patch, I wouldn't run any dungeons after I'd cleared them. Like there's no reason in the dungeon proper itself for me to want to re-experience that. They're not that compelling. They're fun. They're cinematic. I love them. I love the boss fights, but they're not compelling enough to want to do 6, 7, 8 times a night, Tark.
I agree with you. And I don't even touch dungeons anymore, really, except for leveling roulettes. I've been doing PvP if I need tombstones, because I just find that a lot more engaging. I kind of think, I don't think this is going to touch our power progression, but no, maybe they set up they'd be dumb to have it too. You if you clear it once a week, you get a certain amount of points. And then next week, the layout maybe is different this week. And then you do it once and you get a certain amount of points and you get minions and glamours and mounts.
Well, I mean, you put minions in it, I'll fucking run them every day.
There's definitely going to be a minion. I'm sure there's going to be a minion.
They need all the minions.
There's going to be a minion in the extreme, almost certainly in a mount in the Savage. I would bet money on that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it'll just drop and not be like an Unreal vendor?
I think they're going to be using Delubrum's loot idea for this, where you have Delubrum normal mode. There is gear associated with the coins that come from that. And it is gear that's better than, what you can get from a lot of other things, but it's not the best gear, And then I think the Savage gear is going to have Criterion specific buffs. So things you'll want to collect to make. Yes, Criterion Haste, essentially. But it'll also have some rewards that are good for that first clear initially, but don't try to force you to. Nothing that makes you feel like you absolutely have to do it every week or want to, but there are tangible reasons to approach it. I'd like it to innovate on DRS, not DSR, so that's a completely different fight. DRS a little bit, because DRS suffered from not having enough replayability. That still suffers to this now for people trying to go through it later. And so hopefully there's a little bit of a change from what I've suggested, but I think they're going to be largely looking at DRS's loot structure and trying to emulate it for 4 people instead of 48 or 24 people.
I got to say, I'm looking forward to it more than I was prior to the live letter. The additional details have not dampened my excitement here. They have caused my excitement to grow a little bit on this one. And when they started talking and they started with variant dungeons, I was like, oh, shit.
Everyone did the same thing. Everyone groaned. They're like, this is nothing like what we thought it was going to.
Yeah, I did the exact same thing.
We got debated.
Yeah, we definitely did. All in all, 6.2 shaping up nicely. We're still going to have part 2 of the live letter going into more of these details, particularly Island Sanctuary, which kind of got a little bit. It did get a presentation, but it was a little shorter, and I'm sure they want to reveal more of that before we head in. And then we'll also start getting like which .2 or 2x patch some of these things will be in, because some of them still, we know they're going to be in 6.2.1, we know 6.2.2, but we don't have dates for all of these, or not dates, but patch numbers for all of these things. So get a little more fleshed out in Live Letter 2. All right, gang.
Is it time?
It's not for mine. Don't use mine yet.
No, I'm not using yours.
I'll say when. I'll cut to it.
I'm not even putting theirs up, because that's exactly the point. That's exactly the point.
There we go.
Yeah. All right, let's talk billboards. So apparently, gang, now what had happened was RP community in Final Fantasy XIV, an in-game nightclub called Rain, put up some billboards in, allegedly, Austin and Houston, Texas, and plans to put up two more in California. Now, to the best of anybody's knowledge so far, and if any of this has changed and you gentlemen know, let me know, the California billboards, A, never appeared, and B, there was speculation by people who claimed they had contacted billboard companies in California and those companies weren't aware of any such billboards going up. Doesn't necessarily mean they didn't plan to it, but it seems to not have happened. There is at least one that people have been taking pictures with in Austin, Texas, advertising a summer bash, giving a Discord server for their own nightclub, giving the plot that the party will be on, a date of June 9th for the party, a number of DJs and their Twitch names who will be streaming music, because they don't put it in the game, they stream it right there. And then artwork, copyright, and trademark information for the Final Fantasy XIV online logo, a number of characters on the board, including use of what appears to be modded appearances for the characters and data mined outfits. Oh, I should mention that although the billboard fails to mention this particular nightclub has been known to delve into the not safe for work, ERP-ish type content. If that's your thing, God bless you. If you're a consenting adult, have whatever fun in-game you want to. But this billboard, I'm going to be honest, the billboard sucks as far as billboard design. Like, it is absolutely, like, unless that billboard, and I don't have any concept in my frame of reference for where that is located.
Well, Tarkov has a concept in his frame of reference.
Well, where it's located, like there is way too much on that billboard for me to be driving past and even have a inkling of my brain would just get, did I just see Final Fantasy? Like that's probably what my brain would do. There's way too much. Now, if it's in an area where there's maybe some foot traffic and, a slower area, fine. But what happened? Well, they spent money, put up these billboards, and to the best of all of our knowledge, have no permission from Square Enix to be doing so, let alone using some of the assets, let alone advertising the fact that they are modding, something that the team has been a hot button issue lately. And data mining, which they have specifically asked that data mine materials not be shared. It was memed for a little while. And then as people started to notice more and more about this, they were like, wait a minute. This is awful. This is literally awful and could potentially not only leave these people open to some type of legal action, and we'll talk about that in a second, whether that's a possibility or not, but other communities kind of taking a black eye on behalf of Rain and not liking that they're going to be put in the crosshairs here. Happy, I know you did a whole video on this. I know Hogue Law did a whole video on this as well. Hogue Law's opinion after 45 minutes was exactly what my opinion already was, that you are probably opening yourself up to legal repercussions here. At minimum, you're probably, open to a cease and desist, take that down. If not legal, because some of the things, what's scary though is how closely it treads the line to almost being legal. Like almost
so close.
Almost putting Square Enix in a position where they don't have a legal stance until they go back and modify some things in the different agreements and user license and mutual party stuff and all that. It's just a bizarre ass situation that I just have to kind of step back and look at and go, the fuck were you thinking? Like, what did you think was going to happen? What did you think was going to happen?
Even Aloha's in here to give his opinion.
All right. Probably better than all of ours.
Up. Come on.
I know. Their goal. Go ahead.
No, that's all I had. I don't know what they were.
I think they're just wanting attention, whether it was good or bad. This puts direct attention on them. And a few of my Crystal friends were like, yeah, everything's borked. It sucks. Everybody wants to come check out this house out of morbid curiosity.
Yeah, and now like they're saying, hey, we don't make any money off of this stuff. It cost us money to put this, and yes, it did. Yeah. Again, when you talk about billboard purchasing, by the way, it's like real estate. The two big things that are important are size and location. You can get a billboard for $700 or $800 a day in one area in a large size, and in another area, pay $3,000 to $15,000. Usually in like 4-day chunks is the type of things that those go by, or weekly chunks. Now, by the time Square Enix does anything, this billboard will be down. It's over. Like their thing is July 9th. So as far as like seeing this in court, whatever. So let's say that they spent the high end on this one. They spent $10,000 to $15,000. I don't think they did, but I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because I don't know the location of the billboard specifically in reference to high traffic areas. But let's say they spent $10,000 on it. It was worth it, like, right? Like, even if nobody sees the billboard, it was on every gaming. I was on MMO Bomb. Like, and honestly, I sat there looking at this for a good hour and a half, 2 hours before I was like, fuck, we have to cover this. Like, I didn't want to write it up. I wanted to skip it. Q and I had a discussion on Discord where I was like, I really don't want to give them exactly what they're going for here. But, obviously, MMO Bomb, that's a paycheck. I got to look at it in the best interest of the site. My competitors are all covering it now. I ended up, okay, well, let's write it up, put it up. But the whole situation just absolutely disgusts me. There are side accusations here, too, that we should bring in. Because apparently the Discord for this group, allegedly, via tweets of people taking screenshots and putting them out there, they were pretty much dicks about the coverage, too, and the backlash. You can't afford to do this. I give away more per weekend at our nightclub things than we spent in this thing, and we're going to give away things there, and it's just totally outlandish. And then, accusations of jumping into other people's streams, inviting them, telling them it's family friendly, when obviously, they do some things that aren't family friendly. So yeah.
I can tell you that quite a few of the Discord screenshots are not people associated. I don't know which ones are and which one. I know which ones aren't, but I don't know for certain which ones are. I know the first couple to circulate the unedited versions of those pictures show that they have a new person tag in that Discord. So very unlikely that they're the direct associates. Also, the cost of the billboard, I heard that it was, if they had actually put up 4, it would have been upward of that price. If they only put up 1, it probably would have been much lower. I still don't even believe the 1 happened. I know there's proof technically that it did, but I still choose not to believe that it happened. For me, honestly, other than
oh, by the way, I don't think they spend anywhere near $10,000.
I was just saying,
just for the hypothetical discussion, if it got that big, still.
Yeah, but the number going around the community is 3,000 per billboard. And I'm like, that's not how billboards work. It's not just like it's not like a flat rate.
Yeah. No.
But honestly, I don't even really care about the cringe factor, because there's one. And as someone who's a king of cringe, I know when I'm outdone. I know when I've been beat, and I feel like I've been beat for the rest of my life at this point. I was mostly interested in how close it came to being completely within the material usage guidelines and other guidelines that Square Enix has laid out for Final Fantasy XIV.
It's really close.
Very close.
They screwed themselves over the minute they data mined or modded and used those images. Like, from there on out, you lose. And there's an argument to be had that it portrays Square Enix being complicit and or hosting the event themselves, like sponsoring the event. Yes. There's an argument to be had there. Setting those 3 things aside, there's almost nothing that Square could do without editing their material usage guidelines and shoring up some vague areas, which, honestly, this may force them to do, because the timeline here is so small. This event is in 2 days. Whatever Square does after that, this company's, the Rain's not going to care. The Billboard company's probably not going to care. Okay, fine, we'll just take it down. The event's over anyway. Can Square make some noise? Yeah, and here's the weird spot. They kind of have to.
We're getting a stern talking to next live letter, let me tell you.
Oh, man, even I'm going to look down. Like, even I'm going to be like, I know.
I wasn't even part of it, and I feel ashamed.
I don't even know any of them, but we done bad, Yoshi. I know.
No, not we.
No. This billboard's pretty tight. I just gotta say.
No, that's all right. The Lalafell might be a problem, but
Lalafells are always a problem.
Yeah.
As a content creator, it was a genuine piece of interest. That's my video about it is not at all about the ridiculousness of it. I mentioned that I think it is, but it is legitimately about how close it came. And I'm glad that Hoglaw responded. I only tagged Legal Eagle. I felt bad because it was the first name that came to mind. And he's like, oh, Hoglaw did it. We're good. I don't need to do it anymore.
Yeah.
So it was just the stern talking to is going to be rough, but one thing needs to be abundantly clear about this above anything else. This is not how most role-playing venues operate.
No.
I know very many people who operate them. In fact,
this is not how just clubs in Final Fantasy operate, setting aside role-play. I mean, you ever gone to Sly's Velvet Room stuff? I mean, it's not like this, folks. It's not like this.
No, not even in the slightest. And there's going to be a lot of people who just get slack for even having venues just because this happened. It's inevitable.
That's what I said, though. There's going to be black eyes on certain people that don't deserve them, or certain groups that don't deserve them, Tark. The whole thing's just dumb.
Yeah. So that upsets me a little bit more than anything else. There's one other thing I wanted to say about it, but I'm still kind of dying inside. So it's hard for me to recall everything exactly. At the end of the day, I honestly don't think much happens other than another Stern talking to in a live letter. I don't think it's going to force any policy changes. But just think about it, man. If they had made that exact same billboard and just posted it online, and that's it,
they would have been fine.
But that's why it's interesting to me.
They would have been fine.
That's why it's interesting to me.
The fact that money was exchanged here is the problem.
Yeah,
and for physically printing the medium. Yeah.
So it's I don't know. It's just fascinating to me as a content creator to see how far one can mentally try to stretch the usage rights.
Material usage will be updated, particularly on defining harm to Square Enix.
You know, it's another interesting thing. Square Enix has no brand guidelines. Nope. They actually don't, and I can say this as someone who's worked with them for like if you've media tour and interviews. They've never once provided me a set of guidelines that has to be followed, like fonts or spacing or position or anything like that. They've been very, as Hoglaw put it, very creator friendly. And so I would like to see that not change, but I don't think they're going to be thinking of what font the billboard was using when they update the material usage rights or brand guidelines.
Freycor saying, I actually think the Balmog blockade in game was the worst thing overall as it violates TOS. So does this. The fact that they were data mining material and used it and then modded material and used it, those are both against TOS.
Yeah.
To do that period and then to just kind of flaunt it. That was the part that got me, Tark. It was like almost like they were like, oh, yeah, we know we're not supposed to do this, but it's all wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So here we go.
Yeah. And that's why the TOS is going to get updated a little bit, I think, just to protect them from future incidents like this, because
just
they don't want
to say no billboards now.
Just say no more physical media outside of the game, on the internet, one thing, I guess, maybe. But yeah, this is truly fascinating. And if they just had done those two things, like this could be just crazy. Like, okay, well, Square can't really do anything about it. It's totally legit. It follows the rules.
Yeah, nothing burger.
I mean, it violates against other players. It doesn't matter. A violation of TOS is a violation of TOS, whether it impacts just me being goofy or if I'm blocking somebody else from doing something. Either way, I'm violating TOS. Ask the people using mods on stream that got banned.
Just for
it's the same thing. Yeah, it's the same thing. So we see the kind of silly, aka maybe darker side of Final Fantasy XIV's community in that story, but I don't want to leave it there before we segue into our other Square Enix news and then call it a day. So I do want to end on a happy, not a MrHappy, but a happy Final Fantasy community moment with, of course, the absolutely only Alex Mukala and Husky by the Geek, joining forces with over 1,000 Final Fantasy XIV singers to create the Community Sings video, singing Endwalker's Close in the Distance song. Absolutely, I mean, names not only from streaming communities and people like Susan Calloway and other vocal performers that Final Fantasy 14 fans know, but then people like our own MrHappy supplying a little bit of bass line there.
Boom, 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 boom. Bass.
Yeah.
Funny thing, I was actually supposed to be a 13th person in the original. I did the nerves. My nerves I never submitted, so I said just throw me in the extra.
Just put me in the extras.
I said put me in the extras. Straight up what happened. Yeah.
Are you a singer? Like, I don't think I have ever known that about you. Like, do you sing?
I did choir and ensemble for quite some years, but I wouldn't say I'm a singer. I don't have any voice training or anything.
So you don't do like musicals or theater or
no. There was a mild interest in high school, but one that quickly fizzled out because it involved not playing video games.
the cover is absolutely brilliant, and you would expect nothing less from Alex. I mean, Alex is just phenomenal, but then also kind of dedicating the whole thing to Soken himself, right? And his battle with cancer, and still writing the music for Endwalker, and it's an amazing video. The limit break bar in the upper left corner filling the entire time, and then just going nuts when as MrHappy and his team of 1,000 extras chimes
my
in.
team. Everyone, that's so-called my team. I'm not trying to take credit for that.
He leads it. It's his team.
A tremendous video. Warms the heart. And Alex and team trying to make sure, by the way, that any monetized or any funds gained from the monetizing of the video do go to cancer-related charities as well. It's like, if you couldn't end the week on a better Final Fantasy XIV community story. So that's why I wanted to make sure we ended our Final Fantasy XIV segment here instead of on our previous story. Yeah,
Good
if
call.
you chat, Sem saying that they didn't even know this was a thing. Yeah, and in fact, here I will link the piece that we wrote up on MMO Bomb for you. It has the video right in it. Go check it out there. It's absolutely fantastic. Obviously, I cannot play the audio for you here for obvious reasons. Might get in a little trouble. You definitely need to watch it. Let's slide over, talk a few things about Square Enix. 3 things, in fact, and then we'll call it a day. When am I showing this billboard, by the way?
On my outro.
On your outro. Okay.
Yeah.
Because I got to load it into
signal
the...
it.
Okay, because I got to load it into the B-roll footage, so... Or am I just showing it over your shot?
You can just show it over my shot. Oh,
okay. All right. So one of us was right. One of us was, and not by us, I don't mean Happy, because by one of us, I mean Kronos, Tarkin, and myself. Happy, I don't know where you stood on this, but Forspoken has been delayed again.
Called it 2 days before it happened.
Yeah, don't worry about hearing non-singers sing. It is all mixed correctly. It is all mixed correctly. I mean, it's Alex. Alex's high-end audio. It's absolutely, go watch it.
Yeah.
I don't need to tout Alex. Alex is just amazing. Yeah, so delayed until now, January 24th of 2023. This delay coming pretty close to the announcement of God of War's November release, but Forspoken was going to be a month ahead of that. So why were they delaying? What is going on here? Well, the post says this: as a result of ongoing discussions with key partners, we've made the strategic decision to move the launch date of Forspoken to January 24th, 2023. All game elements are now complete, and development is in its final polishing phase. We would like to thank you for your continued support and patience on this journey. Your excitement for the game inspires us every day, and we cannot wait to share more about Forspoken with you later this summer. So multiple delays, and now it's in a really freaking weird spot if you look at the rest of Square Enix's release calendar. I mean, you've got Crisis Core coming sometime between December and February. With winter. You've got Final Fantasy XVI coming in the summer. You've got a slew of undercard titles from Square Enix coming out from October through basically April of next year. I honestly feel like they just murdered Forspoken. I feel like it just got murdered, even though it may have already arguably been breathing its kind of final breaths with the first delay on this one. Which is sad, because now I feel like the only way this game succeeds in any way, shape, or form is if it is almost one of those revolutionary titles that does something so wildly different or tells such a compelling story that it basically word of mouth advertises its way to long success. And I don't have the hope that it's that kind of game. I don't think it's meant to be that kind of game. Maybe I'm being a little negative on this one, but I was interested in Forspoken, and my interest has just continued to go down. And now, Tark, I know you tweeted in response when I tweeted it out from Ready Check Radio that this was no longer a day one purchase from you.
Nope. I'll wait for some reviews, maybe even a sale at this point. It's just showing me they really don't have the confidence. I mean, they said it was all about polish when they moved it from May to October, and now they're reiterating they need more polish. How much more time for polish do you need? I'm just disappointed. I was really looking forward to this, and at this point, unless they put a lot of money maybe in marketing, overspend that way to hype it up a little bit, I don't see how this one gets anything more than a Babylon's Fall kind of a reception.
I don't think it'll be that bad.
Not many things are.
Right. I don't think it's going to be
bad.
Babylon's Fall or Balan's Wonderworld.
Maybe Guardians of the Galaxy,
Yeah. I don't think it's going to be that bad.
Did not meet our expectations.
What about you, Haps? I mean, this can't bode well for it. It's putting it in too big of a Square Enix window, in my estimation.
It's better than it coming out in October and not working. Honestly, there are so many games in that time frame. I was fucking relieved that it was delayed on multiple fronts. Because you mentioned October, they just confirmed Diofield Chronicle near the end of September. They confirmed Valkyrie Elysium near the end of September. Star Ocean is the end of October. Harvestella's December. We're probably looking at the Criterion Dungeons around early October, most likely. It's like it was flooded, and then God of War announced that it was going to be November, and it's just like everything keeps piling on to that season that I don't actually know what's happening in January yet for any other game, for any other franchise. Maybe there is something that I don't know.
Maybe Crisis Core.
Crisis Core is a maybe. I think that's actually going to be a March release. I think they're going to stretch that March 21st is the technical end of winter.
End of winter, yeah.
Yeah, and even Amazon's pre-order that's up, they just to play it safe, though they put that like, no, we don't know the date, so just put March kind of thing. And I'm like, I have a feeling it'll be pretty close to right. I'm still fairly excited. I was less excited before they delayed it because it was getting so close to release and they weren't saying anything, which is why I figured they would delay it. There's no way they were going to announce Star Ocean's release date, Harvestella, which is 2 months later. These other two games, Diofield and Valkyrie, are like 2 weeks before, and just not say anything about Forspoken. Like it was clear it was getting delayed. But the spot they did back in March looked pretty good.
Yeah.
And it looked like it did just need some polish. In my opinion, that's actually all it looked like it needed. But
and chat's saying it too, by the way. Like if a delay leads to a better end product, fine. I don't believe that's the case here. The case here.
You know what I think the real problem is? I think the Luminous engine is still not a great engine.
Still, yeah.
I wanted to think this was their way of rounding it out, but I think it's still presenting issues.
Clearly, they need to stop making engines.
So you already teased a couple of these. Diofield Chronicle, September 5th, or not September 5th. It's for the PS5. For the PS5 and the PS4. 22nd of September release. It'll be on the PS Store in August, which is a demo of it, if you want to get a feel for
August
that.
10th.
August 10th. The Valkyrie series, Valkyrie Elysium, coming to PC. That's awesome. Finally seeing the Valkyrie series there. We'll see if the game is any good. We don't know that yet. So that's cool, but it's going to be a little later than console. September 29th on the PlayStation 4 and 5th, November 11th before that comes out on Steam. So again, a busy time. And finally, speaking of Balan, Yuji Naka still not happy with Square Enix. Still not happy. Posted, yeah. He posted a picture on his Twitter to celebrate the 26th anniversary of Sonic Team's Nights into Dreams game back on the Sega Saturn. Except he edited the photo to remove Naoto Oshima from it. Oshima was the character designer when Naka was the programmer. They both worked on Balan Wonderworld. Kind of when asked about it, and what are you doing here? Why'd you edit the photo? By Twitter fans, Naka had this to say: "How would you feel if you were suddenly removed from a game that you had worked hard on for over 2 years, and when you went to court, you found out that they had been talking about me behind my back in court documents, and that is why I was removed from the game. Game creators create games with care for the people who play them. Don't you think that people and companies that cannot take care of games are no good? Instead of talking behind my back, don't you think they should tell them directly before removing them? What would you do if you were to be ill for a long time and unable to do anything because of it? And how would you feel if you were the director of an unfinished game and it was heavily criticized? Obviously, this is not the first time Naka has gone off on Square Enix on Twitter. We talked about it previously on this show. Not a happy camper. Yuji Naka, not a happy camper at the way it all went down.
You know what he should do? He should get a billboard.
Don't think that'll help.
Probably not.
He is someone
very
that
angry.
definitely should not use Square Enix assets if he bought a billboard. Just don't even remotely use them. Now, look, here's the thing. I get it. Like, I get him being upset. I get him feeling a certain way about feeling like, whether he was or not, I don't know, I wasn't there, but feeling like he was done wrong by a company, a corporate entity, talked about behind my back, removed from a project that wasn't finished. But look, you were removed from a project that wasn't finished 6 months before it was released. Like, how much? Yeah. Like, you weren't gonna. It's not like being there. You were gonna save it, right? Like, is that really the expectation? Like, this would have been. You would have needed to be there for the 6 months and get Square Enix to delay it for another year so that you could overhaul massive portions of that game, right? Like, I'm not crazy.
No, you're not. I was thinking the same thing, and not to mention, I'm
a Yuji Naka fan, by the way.
I had high hopes in that. I had high hopes when I was playing the demo. Mike and I both were like, "Oh, let's play the demo. Let's check it out." And we were like, I don't know about this."
Yeah, that's pretty much where I was too. Yeah, it almost isn't doing him any favors to be.
No, it really isn't.
Not if he wants another job.
It doesn't make. Well, it's not even about that. It doesn't come off as a passionate plea to wish that you had the chance to share the vision you truly had. It doesn't come off that way. It comes off as, for lack of a better word, bitter.
Yeah,
more than anything else.
It feels like sour grapes.
Yeah, and even just like trust me, I've had pictures that have fond memories of me, and I have removed the people in there who I thought were problematic. But this is the person who, like, if the person who was removed from the picture removed somebody from the picture. You know what I mean? Yeah. And you have to wonder, Square Enix is never going to come out and say if there was anything he was doing or anything that was like really, really egregious and bad for the workplace.
And I'm not defending Square, by the way.
We'll never know.
Right.
But
they could very well have handled things totally unprofessionally, totally unethically, totally in a way that, violates privacy or violates, just basic laws of decorum. Like, I'm not defending them. I don't know. They could have done everything he says they did. Or
he could have been like this with his own team.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't know. That's the problem. And he's not going to, be any more than what he's being right now. It's one of those things where you'll never get the other side of it. And the only side you're getting is so impassioned by what they think is right that you just have to play. The best you could do is play devil's advocate. I mean,
and you know what? Here's the thing too. Like, if there had been a good product behind it, I might be even a little more on Naka's side, right?
Yeah,
but
there wasn't. Thing really burns it.
Yeah, and his argument isn't that it wasn't ready. It was that they forced it out the door before it was ready. So he's not only arguing that I should have still been on the team all the way through to completion for those 6 months, but that it also should have been in development for 8 months, a year and a half, not just 6 months before it was shoved out the door. So it's kind of a compound argument. I should have been there, and we should have had more time. But he went there like 2 years prior, and like nobody knew what he was working on. Square didn't say a thing when they picked him up from Sega. I think it was right after he left Sega. And it's just so bizarre. So bizarre. If I had gotten a great game, Tark, that was just buggy as all hell, And I'm looking at it and I'm like, 6 months of polish. They should have Forspoken this thing. Forspoken is a verb now, by the way. Then I'd be maybe a little more on his side. But when I look at it, and I'm like, this had so many problems. You needed to start over. Like, you had cool looking assets. That was about it. Anyway, let's slide over to Love It or Leave It while we talk about this very topic. Love It or Leave It is the way we end every episode of the Relic Grind here. It's where I give you and our panel a topic that has something to do with Square Enix. Could be a press release, a game, a feature in a game, something they did, something they said, or even something tangentially related to them, because it's my goddamn show and I'll do whatever the hell I want. And you tell me whether you love it, want more of it, or leave it. There is no fence sitting, no gray area. You got to make the call right now. And I'm not asking you, gentlemen, today about Forspoken being delayed. That is not what I'm asking you about. Not, are you for the delay or you don't love the delay? No. I specifically want to know, do you love it or leave it that it was delayed for, quote, strategic reasons? Love it or leave it, Tark?
Definitely going to have to go leave it. If it was, we found some issues and we want to enhance it, this screams like no confidence when they say strategic reasons. Like, they don't have confidence in it going against other Square properties or other properties that are coming out in a given window. So they moved it because they just don't believe in it. So I'm going to leave it, and I'm sad for it.
Haps?
I am going to...
What are you
Where's
doing?
the Jeopardy music when you need it?
You love it.
Wow.
I'm going to go with Love It, because I think it's not even about whether or not they have confidence. And I do think that they probably have confidence issues in the title succeeding. They have metrics and things regarding its popularity and how it's been received publicly up to this point. And that, I think, definitely influences part of the decision. That being said, they need to give it as much freedom and kind of standalone release window-ish to make sure that it is something people want to buy in a particular season. Because it's not a beloved IP, even if it's a publisher that's put out a lot of games before, and they know people are going to be divisive about it just because it's the same studio that did Final Fantasy XV. They want it to stand alone and away from as many other things as possible. And this is something Square Enix does not do with other titles, and it damns its other titles that are good games because they don't do that.
So you and Fraycore in chat kind of stepping where my brain was going with this, because it's very easy to look at it and say strategic for the benefit of Forspoken. And I don't think that's the case. Right where you kind of finished up is where I would pick up. I love this because I think their strategic reasons have to do with their other titles. That splitting off of the fraction of the fan base that's going to take a dive or into the deep end of an unknown IP hurts Diofield, hurts Live Alive, hurts like all the different smaller Square Enix titles releasing in that windows that have a little bit of a following, a little bit more of a following, because they are maybe not as established, of course, as a Final Fantasy or a Dragon Quest, but they are established, most of them, in a little bit of a fandom. And if they only have a little bit of a fandom and 20% of them are willing to take this plunge on a new IP, most people aren't in the position we are, where we're like, I'm buying all of them.
Yeah.
Most people are in that, pick one or two.
Yeah.
And so I think the strategic reason makes sense, not for helping Forspoken, but for helping those other titles that probably benefit from this move, even though I think in the long run this move hurts Forspoken. I think it hurts it. We'll see how it reviews when it comes out. That's going to be the only chance I think it has of success. because it's not going to get pushed in a marketing campaign like you want it to, Tark. That's just not going to happen at this point. So we'll see. And strategically, it does keep it in the same fiscal year, right? They didn't back it into April, which would have bounced it out of their some of their fiscal quartering. And
not that I think they need anything for the fiscal year of 2022, given what's
right.
Jesus.
So it'll be weird. It'll be weird to see. But I love the move for some of the smaller titles that do have a following. I think it's good for them. Go pick up Diofield Chronicles. Yes. Go play the demo. You'll have a lot of fun. That's going to do it for us here. We will be back on Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, with an episode of Gaming Gumbo, our weekly gaming wrap-up show. And then, off next week for Thursday and Saturday shows. No Relic Grind, no Gaming Gumbo on Saturday. I will still stream on Monday, Final Fantasy TCG. We didn't do that this Monday. Obviously, it was July 4th, so there's a lot going on in the evening. Until the next time, I know, Happy, you are not the host for the next time, but where can everybody find you, my friend?
You could find me, MrHappy1227, that name, pretty much anywhere. Monster Hunter Rise is my jam right now, but only for another day or two. Because starting this Saturday, I will be beginning a much longer endeavor than the one I undertook 6 years ago. I will be playing through all of the Final Fantasy titles, all the main ones, leading up to the launch of Final Fantasy XVI. And I have made this lovely advertisement for everyone to enjoy. And as you can see, we have all completely original art of all of the characters that you will be seeing. Several of your beloved characters drawn by a very good friend at 85JSH on Twitter. Commissioned, I should say, not just drawn, because paid a hefty price for a lot of these. It's a lot of character portraits that had to be commissioned to make this happen. Oh boy. And on top of that, there'll be tons of unlockable bonuses, bonus games, bonus challenge runs, new game minus, 4 white mage runs, 4 job fiestas, randomizers, Type 0, World of Final Fantasy, which was a game that got screwed by their bad release schedules in the past. Yep. Never forgave them for them damning World of Final Fantasy twice. But I'll still love it. So tune in. It'll be a fun time. And thanks for having me.
No, always a pleasure, my friend. Love having you. Tark.
Find me on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, all at Tarkoth Gaming. Very easy and simple. Final Fantasy XIV, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. And on Saturday and Sunday evenings, you can find me here on Ready Check Radio, where we're currently playing Sekiro. And we just got to the Blazing Bull, so good times there.
I'm Mike Byrne. You can follow me personally right there, Magic Man 1. But more importantly, follow at RC Radio, RAIDEO on Twitter. And you'll get a tweet anytime we go live with a podcast, my Final Fantasy streams, or other video game streams, or any streams from our volunteer streamers who I love very, very much. Until next week, stay safe. Well, not next week. We'll see you on the servers.